Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of The X Button, Season 3, Episode 29. I'm one of your hosts, Alejandro, and with me is the victim of both the United States healthcare system and a recent coffee.
Oh, hey everybody, how's it going?
You gave me extra. I already had the healthcare one ready after you told me your recent trip towards that stupid thing, and
Yep.
And then recently we had to delay it for extra few minutes. for
Coffee hits your system weird, man.
Yeah, I know.
What can I say?
Yeah, it has happened to me, but that usually happens to me if I get it in the morning. Later in the afternoon, if that happens to me, that doesn't really affect me. But how you doing, Paul?
I'm doing way better after that brief delay.
Yeah.
And it was a long, busy day at work. Done with it. Finally ready to chat about some video games, and then potentially go play some video games.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. How about you?
Yeah, pretty chill. Like, my parents just came back from another trip, so I recently did some engineering work on my controllers. I showed you some pictures. So you guys know about the wear and tear that some sticks in the PlayStation controllers can get because of the material they use. I had one controller that was basically destroyed in the stick department, and one that was getting there, and you know that for $11 I bought 4 of those things, and it came with it's called, not a sponsor segment, it's called Extreme Rate, and they bring you let me see if I can open it here. Sends you the tools that you need. It gives you a screwdriver and this thing that you use to basically pry open, all for $11, and it gave me, and you can even get colored ones. So, but I only got.
Do you have to break that seal on the warranty stuff, or I messed with the PS4 controller once to open it up, and there's a little. It's technically a wire that hooks from one to the other, so I don't know what is in the.
I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything that said that it was a warranty thing. I assume it is. The thing is that my controller is working just as well as before, and now the sticks feel better and they feel refreshed, because these were the 2 controllers I got at launch. And a word of advice, people: don't leave your controllers in a very warm and humid place. It will get that weird bubble that starts popping. That can get really annoying when you look at that, and then if you do a little bit of strength, it will just pop, and then there's no way to fix it, and then you'll have to tear that whole thing down. It's that's the one thing that I do prefer the Xbox controller. The stick material, it's just straight up plastic. It feels like it's not that it's not that weird material that the PlayStation controllers use. So I did that, and vacation time is coming soon for us for our St. Augustine vacations, we call them. It's a early August thing that is for us. I have no idea why. I just know that there's some break time around that time. But other than that, just chilling. We got to play a game together finally.
Yep.
After a long while, plus other stuff, and we got a shorter quote unquote episode compared to last week. But even though last week wasn't that long, because we only focused on the 10 news stories, we only got 4 this time. But probably will be a little swifter, but enough of that, because this is the X-Button podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing. Available on the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at tinyurl.com/escapegaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe, and also review in your platform of choice. So, Paul, games that we've been playing. How do we want to tackle this? Because I have only 2 big games that I really want to... Well, technically only one. The other one I just want to offhand mention because I kind of teased it last week, but I played a lot.
We'll go through the brief mentions, and then we'll kind of finish off with the stuff we really want to talk about.
Yeah, so right now we're in my middle of my gaming schizophrenia, how I like calling it. I've been bouncing around Marvel Spider-Man Remastered, which I kind of mentioned last week in our Spider-Man 2 section, when I was kind of watching the trailer and all that I finally got the motivation back to play Spider-Man, the Insomniac Spider-Man, after I've been kind of poo-pooing them, just the idea of that sequel, because I was just burnt out. But I just realized that I was just burnt out on MCU stuff. And if you looked at clips of the Secret Invasion finale that happened, I think it was yesterday, you see, it's a good thing that some people are burnt out, because some of the things that I was watching about that thing, I'm like, oh god, you've seen that clip, Paul? You retweeted it.
Yep.
So enough said. so, yeah, I'm glad that kind of like how you mentioned is like the Insomniac Spider-Man feels kind of like it's isolated in that I can still be excited about that, and replaying it, I'm reminded why
Yep.
like that version of the character is so good. Like
Pure magic.
yeah, it's just so magical, and I'm appreciating it even more after finally getting to play some of those older Spider-Man games that I mentioned last week. So there are some things from those older ones that I actually do prefer than the Insomniac one, but I feel like as an overall package, the Insomniac Spider-Man game is like the ideal like Spider-Man game. Kind of like the thing I prefer, like for example, Shattered Dimensions. It's more of a character action-based game, like you making combos and all that. The way you do combos in Spider-Man Remastered is more the Arkham variety. So that system is kind of played out for me, and me, especially with Final Fantasy 16, kind of getting the retaste of a character action-based game again is something that I noticed. But just as an overall thing, like just the story, like yesterday, I made it past the Jeremy, whatchamacallit, the Jefferson Davis thing.
Oh yeah. That
and,
whole craziness.
Yeah, the tragedy of that thing, and I forget how much that hits, and that was kind of like how that was one of the first how can I say this liberties they took from the comic book, because with that character, I was like, oh, so they're interesting that they decided to take this direction. I still don't know if that was the right direction, but then later in that game we know that they did something really tragic too with another character. That was actually pretty bold. So there's a boldness to their storytelling that I actually do appreciate when you consider like trying through conventions, and it's just the Ubisoftness of how you do the open world that is like, if I can remove the fact that just moving around it, because they make moving around with Spider-Man so fun, that I don't mind that the structure of that game is so played out, because it's so fun to move. And I've realized that if you make your locomotion or just the way you move through a world fun, even if the structure is like rote, is like that can help transcend a little bit, depending on how burnt out you are in a specific kind of open world game. So, and it's something that I hope that they tweak a little bit with Spider-Man 2. We already heard there's no towers. I always, like, every time I start this game, I'll have to go all around the city unlocking the towers just for the map to show up. So they're seemingly learning. Also, kind of like with Miles Morales, I haven't played it yet, but just remembering is the thing I appreciate for Miles Morales is that pacing wise is so much better than 2018. No MJ sections, no extra character stealth sections, so it feels like it's more breezy. So they're a company that I learned from their previous games. Insomniac is so good, and after that trailer we saw last week and knowing the controller is coming and all that, it feels good to start feeling excited now about that game, even though even if it's not like my peak excitement. But I was not excited at all a couple of weeks ago. I was like very, very grumpy about it, and went back to also
I'm glad you've come around for that one.
Yeah, I knew it could. It's like I go through, like, remember when I was burnt out on Star Wars before what? So it was that time, but I'm still burnt out on Marvel. Like, I'm not gonna watch Secret Invasion like at all. Now that I've seen where it goes, I'm glad that I'm not. Especially they retcon some things that actually make me pretty mad. So
I did confirm it was not till after Civil War, without spoiling anything. Yeah. It wasn't until after Endgame, excuse me, because of certain methods of technology that were being used. So, otherwise I would have been really pissed off.
Yeah, Twitter's on fire about that specific detail that I'm not that I won't dare spoil. So I went back to Final Fantasy 16 because I had that Final Fantasy mode playthrough, and I needed some distance from the game because it was like that ending still felt so raw, kind of like I was mentioning. Just thinking about that ending always made me tear up. And I kind of needed that distance to replay the early sections of that game, and maybe just accept what that ending, like my interpretation of that ending. That I believe the more I hear people discuss it, it feels like our interpretation is the one that people are settling in, because everyone played everything. And replaying this game, Paul, is so much stronger. It's crazy, kind of like when you know, like, this is the kind of, since you know what are the parts that are hyped, you know the parts that are like not as hype. I feel like when you have like a context of what the adventure is replaying it makes it so much better. And on top of that, the new game plus, being able to use so many abilities in the early sections when you have so little, also makes it even more fun. And Final Fantasy mode is not super challenging. In fact, there is actually an even harder difficulty in the arcade mode called like Ultima mode. I'm not gonna dare try that yet, but I heard that that one's like pretty DMC like super hard level, like craziness for people that decide to go the arcade mode route of that. And now replaying it, I do feel this is still my favorite game of this year. It's like it's still like it's lingered. Every time that I see like my TikTok, like FYP keeps like showing me clips of the game, and I'm like, I haven't gotten tired of seeing it. It makes me realize it's a game that has really like endeared itself in my heart. And also, to your suggestion, I went back to Final Fantasy IV to keep playing more. I've gotten to the part where you get like a sand thing, like a sand orb or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think you have to like wake up like a girl. Yeah,
you're still pretty early, actually.
I'm still pretty early, but it's still like getting to witness some of the things that you were mentioning, the bombs thing, the girl that lost the mom, and all of that. It's just thinking, I was like, man, it's like, with this art style is so unassuming, but this is pretty dark. This is like such a dark story. And then you keep telling me, like, you keep playing more and more, like, all the characters that you lose or die or things, and I'm like, man, it's like, I didn't realize that it was that hardcore. It's so unassuming when you look at it, like in the sprite base. But then when you look at the art of the characters, you realize that the intended tone of the game is definitely something more serious. Those early Final Fantasy games, I tell you, they're so good. Like me, I'm not a turn-based guy. Like I just not. And they have a way to like, especially the quality of life. The Pixel Remaster, I think it's helping a lot. Just like boosting those gil up, boosting the XP up, just to. It was crazy.
And realizing how required all of that grinding was previously, because even with the 4X, and just kind of like not turning it all the way off, the encounters all the way off, but just the fact that the time you would have to put in to be leveled up enough. It's like I'm following this walkthrough, and it's saying like, yeah, you now need to like level up Cecil to 15 in his new form or whatever. And I was like, he starts at 1. You telling me I would have had to go through 15 levels of him before I was ready for the next story section?
Here's what's so funny. I got Cecil and came to level 15 before fighting the Mist Dragon. That's how much I grinded, but how quickly it can go.
So that's the thing, because after a certain point, he resets his level.
Oh, yeah, I forgot, because he has the Final Fantasy 16 moment of truth.
Normally I think he gets up to like 25 or 30 or something, and then it like everybody else stays the same level and he goes back down to 1, but his base stats are still crazy high compared to that's like, at his level 1, if that makes sense.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's got like stats wise, it's like it resets you back to level 1, but it still has the same amount of health that you had it before he makes the shift and all that.
Yeah, he just has different skills and abilities. And I'm kind of shocked that they'll change that paradigm a lot for people, where it's like you'll get people in, because I think I made a mention where it was like all white mages and all people who could heal at once, and then there was Cecil, who was the darkness user, because his abilities use health to do attacks, and then it flips, and like even like some of the same characters are suddenly a different class because of like changes that happen to them in their life, so they now like lose certain abilities and gain others. It's crazy what they were doing back then.
Oh yeah, it's like I see why that's considered one of the greatest games of all time, and 6 too. And I still haven't played 6, but I always hear 4 and 6 are the ones, and I'm seeing it with 4, and I can't wait to play more. And staying within the Square Enix family, I also kept I continued to play Kingdom Hearts 2. The last world that I played was the Pirates of the Caribbean world, and I like transporting myself to back then. What was your reaction when you saw that you went into Pirates of the Caribbean? And not only that, you went to Steamboat Willie.
For 2?
Yeah, for 2.
Oh, man. I think I remember seeing trailer. Oh, I remember Pirates of the Caribbean was in it because 1, it's on the back of the box.
Jack Sparrow.
And 2, I think I had this like Disney Adventures magazine, and it had like a huge deal of fact that you were going into the Pirates of the Caribbean world. You got to like, it was like Game Informer and like those 3 pages talking about the Kingdom Hearts and all of that stuff. So that was like I expected it, but I freaking loved it. Pirates of the Caribbean is probably one of my favorite worlds in that zone, and how weirdly specific it is to like be able to fight the enemies and beat them and stuff.
Yeah, that you need to like
Barbossa.
Yeah, it's like really cool. I like how when you fight the pirates there, you have to like fight them at the light of the moon for them to be like in the skeleton form to hit them. And it's also funny seeing Barbossa next to Pete. It's just the contrast is so hilarious. But I just love that they committed to trying to make the Pirates of the Caribbean world as like quote unquote photorealistic as the PS2 could get. Like it looks like what a traditional like realistic PS2 game would look back then, and also mixed with Donald, Goofy, and Sora. And I'm being reminded as like why Kingdom Hearts 2 is the best one. And that it clicked in when I went to Steamboat Willie, just like the ingenious of that level. Like the change of sound, the change of like visual style, and it's like it feels so ingenious. And knowing that Tron level is like soon to come too, it's like they really like put their all in that one in a way that Kingdom Hearts 3, because they went for the CG animation, it feels less special in a way, like at least less inventive. Obviously there's like seeing Sora as a toy or seeing Sora as a monster in the Monsters Inc. and Toy Story worlds in that 3 was actually cool, but there's just something about seeing Sora in the 1928 art style and how he contrasted with the Pirates of the Caribbean world, because when they did that again on 3, everything felt more unit. Like they now changed Sora to look more like the characters from the movie, and I still, and the fact that it's at World's End, I really love that movie. That I really enjoy getting to play that in Kingdom Hearts 3. But yeah, I'm still being reminded why Kingdom Hearts 2, when it clicked for me back in 2018 in the collections, it really clicked. And then I went to like my 2 quote-unquote big games. So last week I got a code for a game called Kill Squad. This is a game that was in early access on PC a year or 2 ago, if I'm not mistaken, and it made it to consoles, at least for PS4 and PS5 last week. Or can you check in your app if you can buy it? Because it's still so weird. I don't know if it, because remember when I showed you that it was like coming soon. Yeah, so see if you can buy it. Yeah, I don't want to like speak out of turn, but I can freely talk about the game.
Let me see.
Now let me drink some water. It's just called Kill Squad. Such a generic name, by the way, but
I know, right? It's gotta be impossible. Well, the fact that searching it does not come up with anything. Hang on.
Yeah, it should.
Is it one word?
Yeah, just Kill Squad. Yeah,
that's why. All right, so I'm holding it up. It is add to cart, $29.99.
Okay, so it's $30. Okay, yeah. So Kill Squad is basically we got Diablo, but in sci-fi, but not quite Diablo. And we're a twin-stick shooter. We're a melee thing. You can play it with co-op. There's loot at the end of the thing. And it's a jack of all trades, master of none. It's the most okay game it can ever be. It has an initial cool vibe, but it makes me realize like why sometimes you don't like you don't want to play those jack of all trades games, because like we got everything, but it's like it always makes you think, yeah, this game did this better. This game does these things better, and the style of this thing is not carrying it enough. And I will say this, like one of the things that, for example, I had really cooled off on Diablo ever since like I finished the campaign, and the season 1 has not like compelled me to go back in. And the one thing I did appreciate about Diablo is that 90% of that game I was able to play solo. In Kill Squad, it's clear they don't want to make you like they don't want you to play solo. With Kill Squad, it's like for you to like start a level there. It's a segmented game, so it's not an open world like in Diablo that you go walking to the different places and all that. So it has specific missions that are kind of, it remind me a little bit of strikes from Destiny, but yeah, it's like whenever you join one of those missions or start one of those missions, you have 3 options: join game, join public party, or host private party. What doesn't it say? Play solo. The only way for you to like play solo is like you create a private party and start a thing, and the game is clearly not built for you to play alone. It is so frustrating like doing that thing solo, because like it's like you get overwhelmed with enemies. You get at the time to kill is clearly meant for 2 people at the very least. It's in the name. It's called Kill Squad for a reason. it's like think about it like Evolve, like a top down with Evolve of like you got your healer, you got like your brute, you got like a gunslinger, which is the character that I used, and all of them have like different abilities that they can use, and they're intrinsic and they're tied to ultimates and all that. And when I was playing with my EIC Ains last Saturday, when I finally played with him, that's when I was like, I got to see some of the fun in the game. Because he was playing as a healer, I was doing the gunslinger. He was saving my bot by always dropping the med kits while I was doing my ult of like doing like double gunslinger and do like circle thing, and you're shooting everyone. And at that moment, I was like, okay, if I have a friend to play with, I think if you're tired of Diablo and you want something to kind of like look like it and scratch a similar kind of itch for $30. Unless you have a squad, I would say, that is willing to like be playing that. I don't know if I can fully recommend it, but it's not bad. It's just that it's very generic, and it's just like it reminds you that there are better games in that genre around it. But they did launch it kind of like at a good time, I would say, for if people are like feeling the burnout of one, but kind of want to try something different, just at least briefly. It's there. So I'm gonna be writing like an impressions piece. I'm not gonna review this because we have a thing over at Season Gaming where we only review things we completely roll credits on, and actually we screenshot us getting the trophy and the credits to prove, because we don't want to be one of those outlets that write full reviews on and not finish things. But we did promise some coverage. So part of the coverage that we promised was that Ains talked it in his podcast. I'm talking it here briefly, and writing an impressions piece because they did send us code. So thank you for that. It was like interesting. It was my first experience getting like early code for a game. So it was like and now understanding kind of like what embargoes can be like or not be like. This one wasn't a really strict embargo. It's a small game, but it's gonna be different if we get early code for other games later on. But so yeah, Kill Squad. If I would rate it just based on what I played, it's a 6 out of 10. Just like it's that kind of game. So, and then we played Remnant 2, but I want to wait. Tell me your games, Paul, because that's the game we both played 2 days ago.
So on the quicker ones, I went back and replayed from start to finish Battlefield Bad Company 1.
And it was
game. Did you say?
It's not that long, right?
No, I mean it took me a good couple of days at least to actually finish it off. And there's little parts of it that they can drag because the whole thing is basically in the same biome. It's just you walk to this place, you see like a little cutscene for 2 minutes, and then it's just immediately, all right, just keep moving forward, kill more people, do the thing again. Fortunately, the gameplay loop for that game is just so fun that it doesn't really matter. There were a couple moments because the checkpoints were garbage, and it'll put you stupid far back. But fortunately, I found out that it doesn't actually reset you. So any enemies that you've defeated stay dead when you come back. So it's just slowly a war of attrition on your favor, just kind of working your way through them, because so many things are destructive. You just roll through with your grenade launcher, clear out a freaking village just so realistically. It just felt great.
Yeah, it's funny thinking back to this game in 2008 and then thinking of something like, I think it was Red Faction Guerrilla, like some of these games that allowed for like the full destructibility of environments. Bad Company and Bad Company 2 had that in spades, that then when we got to Battlefield 3 and 4 and onwards, it's like they had destructibility. Remember the whole evolution of Battlefield 4, but that was like a little bit more scripted. It felt like
give it 3 still had some of it because that was my first. That's not true. I played Battlefield 2 first, and then I jumped to 3, only coming back after the fact. So 3 did have some of it. 4 really limited it to specific like zones and areas. Like, yeah, you could kind of get away with it depending on the map. And now 1 did it really well.
Yeah. Let me correct campaign wise. 3 barely had.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
then
no,
and then
not at
Battlefield
all.
1, that was the beauty of that campaign. Even though it wasn't like super cinematic and all that, it's cool that they center around the mechanic that everything's like so destructible, and the campaign was kind of like built around that, and that made it really cool. It's awesome. An enemy goes into that building, grenade launcher, boom, blow the hole, blow the
Felt
hole off.
real good, especially when you'd get a tank or something in that game. And then of course 5, like really cutting that down. That's in some ways. There were some zones, but the fact that calling Battlefield 5 having a campaign is a bit of a stretch anyway. So yeah, we're still kind of at that point where I wish that we had more games that did that again. And now 2042 just crapped all over on that concept.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to whatever they do next because I still love the Battlefield series.
Yeah, it's kind of sad to think like the more technology has advanced, we see developers play less with destructibility, because it takes a lot of resources. Like getting that right, like it works in Bad Company because games look, they were not ugly back there, but it was like they had a certain cartoon. Yeah, it had like a cartoonish sheen compared to what we get now. That even though that played as realistic, quote unquote, back then, it still kind of like had a certain jank to it that let them get away with like tons of destructibility and all that, because it was like that was not the focus of those consoles like it is now, where now they want everything to look so pristine sometimes that the font kind of in specific cases can suffer for that. And in that case with Battlefield, that was a big trump card when they moved Battlefield to Frostbite. That was the first Frostbite engine game. That was a big thing about Frostbite, the destructibility.
It shows. It's funny. I was thinking about the holy trinity of, like you said, Red Faction, Battlefield, and then Crackdown. Being like the 3 like big, just blow everything up, destroy it all, and it was like, oh, I missed that so badly in those games when that was like the big draw. But yeah, so I did that, and then I started Battlefield Bad Company 2, and I'm going to come in with a bit of a hot take and feel like, besides production value and like looking way better,
in campaign,
kind of a step back.
Yeah, campaign, the first game's better.
That's what I was realizing. Yeah. I was kind of shocked, honestly, because I had a lot of areas that I couldn't destroy things. Wholly, like especially that rainforesty area with all of those wooden things, like nothing is destructible in that whole zone. And I was really disappointed, honestly, and it made me like kind of stop enjoying myself as much, because then it just became a regular shooter.
And that was a problem. That game reviewed better, but on the strength of multiplayer. The campaign,
which I heard the multiplayer was insane for that game, and some people still say that was where like it peaked, and it hasn't.
Oh yeah, because it's like a lot of the fun that you like from Battlefield Bad Company was still shining in the multiplayer of 2, plus expanded, because the multiplayer of Bad Company 1 was very limited, because that's when they added the rush mode. You know, the one where you're like rushing to and
rush is. Yes,
it's still a staple. It was fun playing in 2042, considering how bad that game was early on. By the way,
fun, yeah.
It's improved. Battlefield 2042 did improve. So
one day I wonder if I'll go back to it.
It's like a big file size now, so it's like you have to be very intentional about it now. But unlike back then, that it was like 40 gigs, it was easy when it was really bad. But yeah, Bad Company 1 as a campaign is better than Bad Company 2, because 2 try to pursue the modern warfare. 2 kind of like they saw that was like the big thing, so they try to copy it a little bit, and they made the campaign more serious in Bad Company 2 also. So it's like one thing that if you notice it with Bad Company 1, your character, your squad is like they're
nobody
goofballs.
Took it serious.
Yeah, they're all goofballs, and they just so you know, like Bad Company 1 was rated T. It had no blood.
Yeah.
I
remember specifically the difference between those 2.
Yeah, and Bad Company 2.
It was easier to get Bad Company 1 back when I was a younger than it was to get 2. That's why I didn't have it.
Yeah, and Bad Company 2 was rated M, because they decided to like add more course, like more cursing. They added blood and all that, and also the campaign. Though it looked prettier, it was just not as fun to play as the first one. So it's funny that still resonate with you more now, like removed. Because people at university said, no, Bad Company 2 is a better game. It's like multiplayer. There, I give you that. So, but then you also played the other shooter.
Yes. So, Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So Modern Warfare 2's Spec Ops mode, I went back with that with my brother,
2009s,
4
by the
years
way,
younger than
because
me.
remember
Yes.
that the 2022
Yes.
has Spec Ops mode also.
The fully backwards compatible version that on the Series S is
Mhm.
where I played it. So my brother and I, we did like the Big Brother mission. We did the one where one of us is in the
Yeah,
AC-130, the other one's running through the farm, just having a freaking blast. I miss that Spec Ops mode so badly, and I was
it
so
is.
glad to
Yeah,
be able to
it
do it.
is absolutely insane. They don't look at it and recreate it. It's just repurposed campaign missions. How
Yep.
hard can that be? That's what like the Spec Ops mode of 2019 was, especially when they were saying we're coming back to Modern Warfare and we're bringing back Spec Ops. When I heard that, that's when my ears picked up because I was like, oh my god, they're bringing back Spec Ops, but the way they brought it back was so
hmm
bad, and
The
it
fact
was
that each
better.
mission was so different as
Uh,
well, like either redoing campaign missions, like you said,
mm,
completely retooling stuff. Just and it feels like they were reusing the right assets to
mm.
create something new, kind of like the co-op mode for Splinter Cell Conviction,
Yeah,
for instance. Um,
no, but the,
yeah,
the
that's
co-op
just
the,
the
the
idea
co-op mode
behind.
had completely different missions. That was the beauty of the
I
co-op
mean, like
of
the reused assets a little bit more is what I was thinking. But
yeah.
yeah, you're right. Like the whole flow of like a campaign mission, even like the racing of the snowmobiles,
Mhm.
doing the whole AC-130 thing,
The
the
sniper, the
sniper
all
mission.
Gillied Ops mission, being able to do that, like recreating the Macmillan McTavish kind of like duo, but it's you and and a
Yeah,
player partner.
it's
Uh,
just I miss it so badly, and revisiting that in the multiplayer last couple of weeks was just a really nice like warm blanket for a minute. And then I was like, if I play this too much, it
yeah.
will mess me up. So I needed to like, all right, this is a nice little put on my favorite cardigan, put it
Mhm.
back in the closet. I can't stay on that because it'll either make me angry about why it's not like that now,
Uh,
or it's going to absorb too much of me, or I'm not going to start enjoying it as much as I used to, and then it ruins my whole image of it. So yeah,
yeah,
I decided to
I'm dangerously
stop.
close. Remember when I did 2 years ago that I played through all the campaigns back to back?
Yes.
I'm
hmm
getting close to doing another run of that after watching Save Private Ryan. So I was like, should I? I have them all installed. That's the beauty of the backwards compatibility. You realizing those games are so
Yeah.
small, you can have them all
And
there.
you
So,
get so much out of them. Like you don't really need them to be upgraded so
mm,
much. They still hold up just as well as they do. It's all the mooching and money
yeah,
laundering that's going on that
yeah.
causes people to
Can you
remaster them.
believe like those games were 60 frames back then? That was the calling
Yeah.
card. That's the thing. Like people like, now people understand what 60 frames versus 30 frames are. But it's funny that people never like put a finger on the pulse that the reason why Call of Duty was like so successful or back then, it was because it was one of the only games that was pushing that. Even if it wasn't perfect
Mhm.
back then. Now it is because it's like the Series S, the CPU alone makes those games run at a lock 60. Before, those games were always kind of like hovering, but it was the perception of like smoothness and the tightness why those games as shooters really hit compared to now that almost every shooter feels like it's able to hit 60 now. So that is less impressive in a way, but it's more impressive when you look back that was the reason why those games were successful. They that frame rate that they pushed at the expense of graphical quality, because you can definitely look at Bad Company 2 and see that visually looks prettier than Modern Warfare 2, more
Right.
lush, has more color and all that, but the feel of it completely different also because
Very much.
different priorities. So, and Modern Warfare 2 Spec Ops was, I played that for an entire year. I originally played out on PS3. I finished with my brother at couch. We finished all the missions, all 69 stars. Yeah, it was 69 stars, and I got the platinum trophy for it. It was my third platinum trophy. Actually, no, my fourth platinum trophy ever. Like Modern Warfare 2.
Jeez.
My first was
Oh, I
Uncharted.
wasn't even getting close to any of that back when I was
Yeah,
younger.
back then it was like my first platinum trophy ever was Uncharted 2. Then I got the Uncharted 1 platinum. Then I got the God of War 3 platinum, and then I got the Modern Warfare 2 platinum. And then afterwards I got the Assassin's Creed 2 platinum. That's why I have such a those are my top 5 like that started
Yeah.
my OCD obsession. Just thinking about that. And then
Prototype 2, baby.
you got the platinum of that one, I got it too.
Yeah.
Also.
It was
So,
so much easier than the first one, that's for sure.
yeah, I still have Prototype 1 installed, and I'm like,
But anyway,
yeah.
Yeah, I'll just clear out the rest of this stuff so we can get moving. But
You had one
I
more.
also decided to. I have two more actually, but I'll not spend a lot of time on one of them.
Okay.
One is that Signalis.
Mm-hmm.
I
You
played
finished
through
it
that.
now.
I
Yeah.
finished it. Rolled credits. I think I said that these were the first time I could not skip the credits out of like
Mm-hmm.
my own thoughts. And it's like not really a spoiler. It's sort of a spoiler, but it's not. It's just the use of vibration in that game was so strong at the end of that, because there's certain things. There's a reason I posted the Agent K gif
Yeah.
at the end of Blade Runner 2049. The game has like four endings, so it's not like a spoiler to talk about one of them. But the idea being that you're just going through all of this crap and what you find at the end, and the fact that the vibration is tied to a heartbeat. And as the credits go, the heartbeat gets fainter
Ooh.
and fainter and slower.
And is that
And then
part
it
of like the story?
finally, it's part of the story.
Okay.
And then as the credits finish, the heartbeat stops. And I was just sitting there holding it in my hands like, oh. So the use of it is so good.
How long did it took you to finish it? Because I haven't installed. So
I'm pretty sure it's fairly short. It's just the fact that you need a guide to get through, that it took longer than that. That's why I said to play it on easy. Don't worry about all the survival stuff. Just like play it for the story.
I've reached that point since we're old now. Like you're a 30-year-old man. I'm about to be in a few days. If I just want to get through something, like I finally like let go of my ego of trying to play things in normal. When I do replays now of things, easy, because it's like, yep, I don't need to prove the challenge anymore. I just like want to see things through. It's like there's no shame in that. So I'm definitely gonna do the easy route since it offers it.
Yeah. The puzzles are really fun, but some of them get like ridiculously hard. Like you have to legitimately use a radio and tie it to some codes on a paper that you found in a previous room and like triangulate the position of a radio tower. It's freaking insane. But it was just fun enough that it wasn't like Witness level puzzles. Like you knew kind of what you needed to do. You just couldn't
the
dial
Witness
it in.
was insane. Like you, like I reached the point with the Witness that I would legit grab a piece of paper myself and try to do the puzzles myself before trying to do them in the game. And some of those were like really satisfying being able to solve them like that, but it can be too much. Like
just like give it a couple of tries for yourself, and if it doesn't like immediately come to you, just kind of watch something long enough to get the gist of it, and then it like usually you intuit the rest. So anyway, great game, great story, crazy world building.
By the way, I'm glad that you got in such good use of your Series S so many months
Finally.
later. Yeah.
It took me a little bit, but I finally just had such a collection that I was like, I'm going to download this game for a gig.
Yeah.
Download this game for a gig.
It's addicting when you see how small they are. It's like, why? Is that why not, right? It's why not be
Yeah, might as well have it.
Yeah.
And then when you have it in 6 months, you're like, finally go play that. But anyway, yeah, so Signalis, go play that game, especially if you're a horror fan, if you're a sci-fi fan, if you're a Resident Evil fan, whatever you are. Even if you like Control and the vibes of Control, big vibes from there. Moving on to that, last thing nostalgia-wise was Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith, the game.
Yeah, it's like it was so funny that when you realized that it was in the like you had it there because you thought it was on Game Pass, but it's one of the games that I'm account sharing with you.
Yeah. So
because
I immediately downloaded that.
When you mix my list with the Game Pass, like because you have it in the all games tab, right?
Yeah.
There's like 600
because it's easier
games,
to
right?
see all of those games. I just scroll through all of that, see what's there, because it's easier than going through each individual list. Because it's basically tomato. Either way, I got the game, so I'm gonna download it.
I know.
But yeah, the fact that that game is just completely untouched, it makes me so happy. Getting to like remember certain lines and
Here's the thing: it's been touched up graphically. All of the original,
really?
All the original Xbox games that they put up, they automatically do resolution boost.
Okay.
For them to like look.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. So it just kind of smooths things out.
But the art style is but that's the thing. Like it's only resolution, like assets and art. Like how those games looked in your head back then, like in the CRTs and all that. They retain that. That's like that's the beauty of like the work they've done with like with that compact.
And how Honestly, there's some parts that are really freaking hard, and I forgot how bad the checkpoints are.
Yeah.
Having to redo the entire Dooku boss fight because
Wait, you
he
died on
got
that?
you.
You died in
I
that one?
died twice on that one
Nah.
because like he'll clip you and it does a lot of damage,
Mhm.
and because at that point your healing isn't all that great, so you
Uh-huh.
have to like kind of dodge past him and then heal real quick and then
Yeah.
like deflect a few moves, and like they just don't teach you how to do like the saber clashes, those
Mhm.
little moments where they kind of like lock sabers for a
Oh
second
yeah,
and
it's
all of a
like a
sudden you have to
YB and
dodge.
yeah, for when they're like it's like you have to do Y and B at the same time, presses for
Right.
them to like to push.
um
They doesn't teach. I learned that through the manual
Yeah,
back in
I
the
had to
day.
go look it up on like the options to see all of the combos and stuff, and the fact that they have so many combos
Yeah.
that I did not realize. Like it reminded me of the old Two Towers days where it was
Uh-huh.
just you had like 60 different command inputs that did different
Yeah,
animations,
and the
and you
funny
would not see half of those
yeah,
usually.
the episode 3 game literally took its inspiration from the Two Towers / Return of the King game from back in
No
the day.
wonder I loved it so much.
Yeah, it was literally a carbon copy. It was like the you see the movie clip that then segments into the gameplay side,
Yep.
and they're in back and forth. And they're character action based games where you don't control the camera; it's just a button masher.
Hmm.
And there was something in the water in those kinds of games that back then. These games nowadays are not great, but God, did I
Yeah.
love them back then. They were like they were my obsession. I replayed it. It's funny because I did replay the Two Towers and Return of the King game in one of the emulators that I told you last week that I was playing
Yeah.
through a swath of emulators, and I got to play and finish those, and just reminded him like, man, this was my childhood, man. It's like this was bliss. Like these games, the Spider-Mans from Treyarch, the X-Men games. It's like just the PS2 was like really was licensed game Nirvana. It felt like that's what those were the games we played back then. Those and they felt awesome back then. They don't now
Hmm.
technically, but our nostalgia is so strong for them that I can still go back to those and still find the fun. So I'm glad you're able to play Revenge of the Sith again. And it's
Yeah.
not that long.
So
It's super short.
no, I'm already like halfway through it. I think I'm on the Utapau missions.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah,
I
you're
just I play
you're
like
halfway
a couple
through. Yeah.
missions here and there, just get like the feel of it, and then jump off to like
Are you
another
in the
game.
first Urapao mission, or are you in the one the hello there?
The second one,
Yeah,
where he starts off fighting the Sentinels
Mhm.
and like the clones start showing up and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So
yeah, the
that's
hello
where
there,
I'm
the
at,
hello there part with the power. Yeah.
basically.
So it's funny
yeah,
to it's before we move to Remnant, it's just funny to think that that game came out the week before the movie. It had the same problem that the Amazing Spider-Man game from 2012 had. That it was a
Yeah.
game that came
I'm
out.
kind of glad that I didn't play that one until after I'd seen the movie, because that spoils all of the movie.
That happened to me. Like I played that game before I watched the movie. Here's the funny thing, though. I didn't understand what happened to Anakin. Let's just say, based on the game.
Yeah. Because
Like
they do kind of cut out a lot of context and
yeah,
extra stuff that happens.
yeah. The thing is that it had the high ground moment. It's just that I didn't see exactly what Obi-Wan did to him until finally seeing the movie and see, okay, let me see. So did he hit him in the face or something? And then that's when I saw like, oh no, he completely dismembered him.
Yeah,
like you don't see the dismemberment like clearly
Yeah,
in the
you
game.
couldn't
Yeah.
do the dismemberment. I mean, that's why you had Count Dooku dying from getting stabbed by Anakin instead of beheaded and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Which is funny because you should have been able to do that technically,
Mhm.
and as a T-rated game, but I guess like they didn't want to be listed as something higher
Mhm.
under the T rating. I guess I
Yeah.
don't know.
Nah, but it's just a funny thing because I remember seeing that, and I remember feeling that was such a weird way for that fight to end in the game. But then I saw it in the movie because you didn't even see him immolate. So it was like when I finally saw the movie, I was like, okay, so he completely lost his legs and his arm,
Yeah.
and now he's gonna get incinerated. It was like that was safe for the movie. It's fun times.
But anyway,
Yeah.
good times for sure.
Remnant 2, Paul. This is the
Yeah.
latest game that we played based thanks to our arrangement. I was interested based on the trailer we saw at the Game Awards. It was one of the surprise reveals at the Game Awards last year. I was like, oh shoot, they're doing another Remnant. This is a crazy showcase for the Game Awards. And I started hearing so many rumblings about like people like were like reviewing it early. Kind of, I mentioned the guy from our season game. We got that game early, so he was telling us a lot about it. I was like, huh. So I guess it's actually really good. And then the reviews came out and it's reviewing fairly high for like some of the sites. Not super high. Obviously, we got already the high tower games for this year, but it's been like considered one of the bigger surprises of the year because it's such an improvement over the first Remnant. So we started playing it. I specifically told you we gotta play this co-op because I will want to see how this is played co-op. And though I feel lore-wise, I don't really care about some of the things that are happening, I feel this game, like the vibe and the gameplay, really fun. Really fun. What we got to play together was like, man, it's funny seeing this Bloodborne style like vibe as we're gunning down all these like weird creatures. And
I'm kind of surprised at how different the vibe is from what I remembered the first one being. Because the first one was a lot more of like this ritualistic, like almost voodoo and like arcane kind of stuff going on. Yeah. And this one is like, what if we took Last of Us, but then you slipped into the Twilight Zone?
Yeah.
And like, that's the concept. And realizing kind of where
not
you're
only
at.
that, more like HP Lovecraft, like more Lovecraftian like weirdness. So.
Yeah, and definitely on the full-on Bloodborne inspiration as well, because goodness gracious, the like crazy, creepy, weird stuff that you see, and like the awesome inspired boss fights, and like their designs, like that's some Elden Ring stuff. Yeah. Like these eldritch creatures coming after you.
The freaking ghost that kept stone like the last thing we played together was like that's this really creepy like ghost
crawling along the ground and phasing through walls to one-shot you and stuff, and like the insanity. If I was not sitting next to my wife who was sick at the time, I would have been like, oh my God, you're right, get it. It's just kick my soul out. And it reminded me of like playing Borderlands like for the first time with a friend, and I have to admit that it was pretty solid with a buddy. I can't really speak much to how fun it would be by itself.
I would say it is. I would say I because I played a bunch of it. I played slightly further than you. You stopped at the sewers. I like brought you out of the sewers into my I
was kind of struggling though. I don't know if it was because of my class or what, but like if an enemy is faster than you, you have a lot of difficulty like keeping that aggro on you at all times while you can reload, move, dodge, like all of that stuff.
And since I was a medic and I was self-healing and I had like the long-range weapons and all that, I wasn't having trouble. It was just me constantly running, dropping my well, using my repeater, trying to get as much headshots as I can and get my hand club that is like a chain whip thing. You have like the big sword because of the class that you picked, so maybe that's what was happening to you. It was like maybe aggroing in solo play can feel overwhelming. That's why I usually lean towards medic as my first class whenever I go through a game, because I'm studying what the game is trying to do and I feel like I have extra, because obviously you have the Estus flask style healing. You get 3 of those before you get a checkpoint, and with mine I have that plus a well of healing. That is kind of like my ult. So I feel like I'm always like surviving more, but the fun factor of playing with a friend is so much more fun. Like your characters interact with each other. There's just something cool about like you going through the aggro thing while I'm keeping your back as a healer, making sure that you're well healed while I'm also shooting, and then the combination of me, I'm using more long range weapons versus you that you're more like the shotgun type because you're more up close and personal. I feel like that class variety makes it I feel like you feel the dynamics of the gameplay in that way. And the first Remnant, in the little bit that I played of it earlier this year, actually, because I had it on PS Plus and I just wanted to try it because I knew Remnant 2 was coming. I was like, shooting was great back then. Shooting feels even better now. Like, this is one of the tightest third-person shooters I played this year. Like, just in like the locomotion, how you aim and shoot your weapon, how your character moves, and all that. It's so solid mechanically. And then when you mix it with this being one of the first Unreal Engine 5 games, like fully made, released that we've gotten in this generation just for PS5, it makes what's ostensibly a AA game, because this was a cheaper game, even though you could pay like the more expensive version to play it early and access 3 like armor suits early. It was like an early unlockables if you pay extra cash. But the game is just $50, and it looks like a AAA game, not the quadruple A's we know of, The Last of Us and all that. I was kind of mentioning you that it's like, it feels like now we have to fully designate quadruple A, because it's like,
I think we do, yeah.
Because if people still feel quadruple A is what AAA should be, and I feel like there's a perfect middle spot for like the double A that really looks janky, or is definitely more on the cheap side. I think Saints Row last year, in something like this that doesn't look like something like Saints Row. It was made by a developer. It was just 50 or 60 people, but it's like the technology that they used, and using the nanite tech that I was kind of telling you, it's like, look how like the reflections look from this. It's part of like the epic nanite tech that they were testing with Fortnite recently, and it really elevates the look into something that I'm like, yeah, this passes like what a AAA game would pass like the last generation, or even just normal generation. And that's actually really cool that technology gives that, and it would be more helpful for many people that if they can at least make the games look like this, then maybe that can help them with like development. This game only took what 3.5 years to make, because the last game came out in 2019, and it was solid mechanically. It was like really well polished. It was like we didn't see many like the usual jank we sometimes can like get into things. I didn't quite see it in our session. I haven't seen it myself yet. There's like some jittery, like in like for example, there was like this vendor that I went into that the landing was like flickering in and out, but it was just a tiny thing. It's like this feels like really like a really well made game. And as we're waiting for like the bigger games to come for the rest of the fall, this felt like it landed at the perfect moment. It's like all the big games from the first half are done, the second half is still coming. You need something good, but just not everything, but actually something really well built and solid. And I feel Remnant 2 is that game. It's a perfect game for this summer lull right now. Like as I'm trying to figure out other games, and I'm exclusively gonna play it with you, because that was like such a joy playing it how we did it, that I was like, that this is how I want to experience this one. Kind of like how I don't feel it's as co-op dependent as Kill Squad. I would say, like, especially me, I felt that more playing Kill Squad, that I was like, this sucks. I don't want to play it by myself. I need to wait for someone to play it, because it's like, this is just riding my head against the wall about like this overwhelming enemies and like the super horrible checkpoints and all that. And Remnant 2, I was like, no, this could be played solo with a little bit of a skill check. I'm glad that there's difficulties. I put Survivor, the easiest one where you could put, because I was like, I heard people say that it's actually Elden Ring brutal in the higher difficulties, but I'm glad that this is one of the Souls-inspired structural games that really gives options. Do you pick Survivor mode, which is the one all the way to the left?
I picked whatever's the regular like starter, so I think it was Survivor.
Okay, yeah, it was like, because it was like Survivor.
I learned my lesson from Outriders. Yeah, I'm not doing the higher tiers until it's done. However, it's funny, I was playing Remnant 2 in the sewers and going, I should go back and finish Outriders.
I wouldn't mind going back. I literally wouldn't mind going back to that one, because it's like, it's hitting because it's like, this is not quite a looter, but it's like it has loot and all that. It has kind of like those trappings, and right now we're in like Destiny 2 limbo, I would say, where it's like
there's a part of me that was tempted to go back and finish those weekly missions from Destiny as well.
You can do it in like a day.
Because when is the next season for that?
August 23rd.
I saw
August 23rd.
Okay, because I know y'all said the raid is the same day as Starfield, which is early September.
So I forgot to mention, it's the day of early access Starfield.
Okay.
So it's because
are we getting the regular? I don't remember what we discussed.
So the thing with Starfield is that the normal game is coming to Game Pass on the 6th. However, if you pay $45 while still subscribed to Game Pass, you basically get it 5 days early.
Okay.
I feel I can wait the 5 days unless I hear
it comes out that first day and they're like, this is the best game I've ever played. You gotta play this now.
Yeah, unless it's an Elden Ring situation. Remember when we were gonna be like, we're gonna wait because we're like, we're
gonna wait on Elden Ring. I can't believe that.
Yeah, it's so funny going back to that one. But it was like
Jeez.
that was because we were already playing an open world game. So it was like, yeah, I think let's finish this
Yeah.
one first.
Because I knew if I took a step away from Horizon, I wouldn't like it as much anymore, and I was really trying to give it a true
Yeah,
like
and that's
shot.
exactly what happened to you. It's like I finished Horizon
It
first.
happened
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, I
I'm
actually
glad I
finished.
finished it. Good Lord, if you can you imagine if I hadn't finished it?
Yeah.
I would have never gone back. I
Oh
wouldn't have
no.
wanted to.
Oh no. So yeah. So yeah. Starfield is kind of like TBD for that. But it's like, yeah, I'm really curious for the raid. Like, I really want it to be Wrath of the Machine, which is the last one they did for Destiny 1.
Oh yeah.
I've been hearing so many rumbles that there was like that thing where someone data mined the Scorch of the Past, which was the Earth raid that came during the Forsaken era that they bolted. Could be coming, could be coming back, and I'm like, no, not right now. It's like, bring all the D1 ones first, then start unbolting the D2 ones. It's like,
Yeah.
I feel like sentiment around Destiny 2 right now is like so low, especially like this has been like one of the weirdest season because the season technically is not bad. Like when you see at the content, it's just that the state of the game is like it's at a breaking point for so many people in the community that is like no matter how good the content may be, it's like the state of the game is not in the right spot, and the sentiment is not in the right spot. That no matter how good things are, it's like the sentiment just doesn't feel right. And didn't help that Diablo actually did so many of the things that Destiny was doing wrong and it was doing them right at the worst possible time, let's say.
Yeah.
So now it's easier. Now that Diablo, like for me, it's like I can go back. I was actually playing Destiny 2 before we started recording because I wanted to get the armor. The beauty of the Solstice event, you can get the basic pieces of the armor right from the start. And I'm just gonna.
Which is nice. Do you have to play the event to get those?
No.
I always forget how you actually get the stuff from Solstice.
So you can play the event if you want them with glows. You know, kind of like mine. That if you want the glows, yes, play the event. But if you only want the armor, you get armor that then you can armor synthesis, do the transmog. Even though
that's true.
Remember, Destiny has the worst transmog system of any game because you have to like grind out like currency to be able to do that. So I'm only gonna like do 3 pieces of that armor: the helmet and the chest and the
Warlock looks great. I do not like the Titan one.
Yeah, I got all 3 pieces.
It's way too like
magician
matador.
Yeah,
for me, honestly. I look with the little short jacket thing. I was like, get that out of my face. Yeah, I want it's like the cool jacket that the Warlock gets.
Yeah, you've seen my other Titan looks for Solstice other events. They were better, but the Warlock one, perfect. And so Solstice is there, but it's like I can't wait to hear just get to know what the raid is. Getting a new raid is finally gonna make me play that game more, even though this is still a fall where I tell you, it's like Destiny has suffered the most this year because we've actually had games to play. I feel Destiny was holding us all the time. It was it was our affair. It was the it was the mistress we were having our fun with as we were waiting for the thing. And now this year we actually got the thing, so it's like Destiny has just been like neglected. But I feel that's healthy.
Bye.
Yeah, I personally feel that's healthy. I like that. I don't feel like the FOMO hasn't really hit me. Like, yeah, I have to go back to it. It's like when you realize that you can really catch up on everything, like wait until a certain point of season and then just take a day or two, or maybe just a day, consume all of it, and that's it, instead of the weekly drip fit thing. So, and Remnant 2 is kind of like still hitting that itch of like killing enemies with health and the abilities and all that. So yeah, I can't wait to play more. And obviously this is a game that when we get like more exciting games, it's definitely gonna be backburned, like if we don't finish it. But so far I would say Remnant 2, big surprise, because the first Remnant was like, yeah, I kind of missed the boat on this one, but I feel like I don't need to go back to that one. There's everything that one did, from everything that I read, it's better. So it's like, yeah, it's like I'm glad that this is like my first full real dive, and it's hit at the perfect time where I have nothing really of importance to play. I'm just like bouncing around all these games. So anything else you want to say about Remnant, Paul, before we move?
Nope, nothing. Let's get it.
All right, we got 4 news items, like we've said earlier. So no more beating around the bush. Press X
for some news.
All right, Paul. First story, this one was a little bit of a heartbreaker and also kind of like an own goal, because it was like it was their fault personally. So
yep.
Story by Andy Robinson from BGC. Sources: Ubisoft has cancelled its Immortals Fenyx Rising sequel. That's according to multiple development sources who told VGC anonymously that a follow-up game was in early development at Ubisoft Quebec. But company leadership ultimately decided to cancel it earlier this month due to perceived challenges around establishing the IP. The original Immortals, which was also developed by Assassin's Creed Odyssey studio Ubisoft Quebec, received generally favorable reviews. Ubisoft's intention was to grow Immortals into a franchise, with journalist Jeff Groff reporting last year that it intended to explore different mythologies other than Greece with future games, such as Hawaiian Polynesian myths. In parentheses, that would have been interesting because I never really think about like Hawaiian mythology as like a big thing, like compared to other ones. Just
Yeah, I mean, I know that it's really deep and interesting, but it's like that case of everything else. It's just so
out of my purview.
lacking, and yeah, it's just not having a million movies made about it, so we just don't know anything about it.
Exactly, like when you compare it to like Norse mythology or even Greek mythology, that how we know them is not because of us studying the myths, but more like seeing it in movies and all that stuff. In TV shows or elements of it being absorbed like or co-opted from other games. So yeah, back to the story. The original game saw players controlling a forgotten hero on a quest to save the Greek gods. Later, the game's DLC explored Chinese mythology by having players take control of a new hero, martial artist Ku. Okay, I didn't know that because I have the DLC for that game because I bought the season pass cheap. That's interesting.
That's right. I forgot that it even had DLC about that.
Yeah, I bought it cheap. It was like $10 the season pass. I was like, I know Immortals is a game that I play on PS4. I really like. I always intended to go back. So, sources told VGC future plans for Immortals were cast into doubt after the company decided to pivot towards its most prominent brands. In January, Ubisoft said it had cancelled 3 unannounced games, not including the Immortals sequel, and was planning to strengthen its focus on its biggest IPs and live services following weaker than expected software sales over the holiday season. This year's Mirage is one of at least 6 Assassin's Creed games Ubisoft currently has in development, for example. And in May, the company announced plans to increase the number of staff working on the series by 40% over the coming years, by reallocating staff from other franchises. BGC understands Immortals Fenyx Rising did find a modest audience, but a lot of it came via discounting. I bought it on a discount, by the way. That's how I got it. And to put it into context, its sales in Europe were around 70% lower than what Assassin's Creed Valhalla managed to achieve over a similar time frame. And that's a worthy comparison because these games literally came next to each other. Valhalla was in November, this was in December, so there's similar time periods to compare. And an update to the story because they asked for comment to Ubisoft. Ubisoft has responded to this story and said it's reallocating some creative teams and resources within the Quebec studio. As part of our global strategy, we are redirecting and reallocating some creative teams and resources within the Quebec studio to other unannounced projects. The expertise and technologies these teams develop will serve as an accelerator for the development of these key projects focused on our biggest brands. We have nothing further to share at this time.
Oh, shut up, Ubisoft.
Yeah. This is sad because
extremely.
This game was sent to die like the week before Cyberpunk crashed and burned, by the way. But when Cyberpunk was the talk of the town, this game came out the week before. This was still like at a time where the next gen was slowly launching. Ubisoft launched both Watch Dogs Legions and Assassin's Creed Valhalla literally next to each other, and they did dump this one on top of that. And the thing is that Immortals technically is the best game out of this 3, but again, in that Ubisoft problem, they're all the same formula. This was trying to be Breath of the Wild, but it was still Assassin's Creed Odyssey, like in controls, in like structure, like some structure of it reminded so much of like Assassin's Creed Odyssey that was kind of insane. I was like, man, this almost feels like just a reskin of Odyssey. I don't mind it because I really do like Odyssey. It's just so funny seeing it that way, but the art style was really cool. It was like it's the only non-Breath of the Wild Genshin Impact art style we've seen. Like, at least from that case, they nailed it. In the puzzle side, like, they couldn't even come close to the shrines of Breath of the Wild. But they had a charm to it that at least made it look different from a Ubisoft game. But structurally, it was still a Ubisoft game. Releasing the third of those kind of games within a month and a new IP on top of that, bad idea. They could have held this. This game made a lot of its sales through the sales. Makes sense. That's how I got it, because it was like, oh, this got discounted really quickly. It was so funny because it was like that game came out in December and it was 30 something by early January. That's when I bought it. I was like, I think you bought it around that time too, because I remember we were playing it around the same time.
I know I got it in physical format. I I might have gotten it on release and I just didn't play it a lot.
Interesting.
Because I was really obsessed with trying to get games for the PS5.
Was it a birthday present, by the way? Because this game came out on your birthday.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know I got Watch Dogs, I got Miles Morales, I got Valhalla when it came out, and I know I had this one as well, and it just collected dust.
Yeah, and I remember Watch Dogs, you bought it before, because the game came out way before the console. It was the last game you bought before getting married. That I do remember.
Right, because there was one of them that you got like the free upgrade, so I was like, I'll just buy
all
it
of
on
them.
the PS4.
Yeah, all of them had the free upgrade. All of them had the free upgrade.
Yeah.
The ones that you got. So yeah, and it makes sense. You got Miles Morales and Valhalla. Yeah, you got Miles Morales and Valhalla when you got your system after you came back from your honeymoon. I remember how all of that happened. Like you bought you had your pre-order, but then you were gonna get married before the system launched. And I don't know if it was Duncan, the one that held it for you, or how it happened, but
it was Duncan's partner actually, but Duncan had probably a role in it, honestly, making sure it happened. I messaged their partner and was like, hey, listen, I'm going to be out on my anniversary. I've paid for this. Can you just like check out with it and hold on to it at your apartment before I get back?
Yeah.
And they were just like, yeah, totally. I got you covered.
Yeah.
And sure enough, like,
I mean, Duncan's the one that told you that they were opening the pre-orders of the PS5 the day before. Remember that?
Yeah. And I was able to jump in on those pre-orders because it was available. And if I had waited till the actual day that they were supposed to go live, I probably wouldn't have one.
Oh yeah. Remember my nightmare trying to get that. This is so funny. This game is tied to that early.
I was so lucky getting into that crap because they now officially, as of like a month ago now, the last person I knew from that previous store has now moved on finally. And obviously I live in a completely different state, so either way, not going to be able to get away with that anymore.
Oh yeah. But the thing is that I fully inducted you into digital with our arrangement and me showing you the ways of like the convenience. Remember when you were trying to buy Final Fantasy VII Remake disc and you were like so heartbroken because that's when the pandemic closed everything, and I was like, you can technically buy it digitally, no problem. And that's how I hooked you.
Yeah. And now I'm kind of just too caught on the convenience, but to all my people out there, in my heart, it's still physical, because if all of that goes wrong, it's gone forever. And that's the thing. Learned recently.
Yeah, like which apparently Ubisoft cleared out. It's so funny because this wasn't the story, but something was making the rounds that you had like a Ubisoft account, like their Uplay thing, and you didn't log on for a while. Like they could close your account, but then Ubisoft came and said that if you had bought a single game, even if you're not active, they're not gonna close it. That's just for like, you created an account, you have not bought everything, and they see no. So they cleared that. Those are the worries about a digital future, and
I mean, it's already happening for shows. It's happening for movies. Games we're kind of lucky in some ways that you can still usually download it if it's attached to an account, but there's nothing stopping somebody from just changing their minds on that, and then all of a sudden.
And it's so funny that in digital thing, the only time that something has revoked access was PT, because it was like, and how they like justified it was that because it was a canceled game. So the game was never coming. So because it was a playable teaser, because it was a demo, that's why they like took down, because it was like, this is demoing something that we're no longer working on. So, but other than that, if you bought something, like even if it was delisted, I can still download like
Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim, and they and the good thing, Scott Pilgrim got the license like re-enabled, and now you can buy it again. And if you bought it, now you have it. Like Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2, the Deadpool game, and Transformers Fall of Cybertron, and Amazing Spider-Man 2. Those are games that got delisted. I still have them, and I can download them, no problem. And Transformers Devastation. So that's kind of like, at least I'm glad that companies like Sony and Xbox took that into consideration. They're honoring the licenses you bought. So the license is forever yours for you to download as you please. It's just that new purchases eventually get delisted, and the problem with that is like, I hate that so many games that eventually were digital for a little bit I never bought. and now I'm like constantly scouring a Facebook marketplace to try to find the games or the emulator like I did. But going back to Immortals, this is Ubisoft's fault. Like this could have released at a completely different time, like a full price when people were hungry. They released it at a time there was no famish for new games because it was the launch. They probably thought it's launch time, everyone's gonna buy everything, but it was like, it's a pandemic, so it's like, yeah, everyone want to buy everything, but it's like money's tight, by the way. And when it's like the Titanfall situation, when you put a new franchise to establish things, what are you gonna buy first? So, and that's why like, and Assassin's Creed is Assassin's Creed. This is their biggest thing, and Valhalla was extra big, significantly big now, especially like when we look at 3 years worth of sales. It's like the bestseller, which is crazy considering the negative stigma that game has. I like it, but it's so funny how much that game sold, and it's unfortunate that because they're in dire straits, they don't want to like take risks with the sequel. So, RIP Immortals. I'm gonna play your first game fully. Like I'm gonna do you that honor. I have it installed thanks to my big ass hard drive.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, but that's the thing. This would have been perfect in 2022, not this year. So, but 2024, it's not looking even remotely as close as this year. So we'll have those open spots again. Story number 2, Paul. This one's interesting. Not much of a problem for us, but it may give us an idea of the content, maybe. So, story number 2, also from BGC's Tom Ivan. It looks like Spider-Man 2 could be banned or delayed in the Middle East. Publisher Sony started taking pre-orders for the PS5 game last month, shortly after announcing a Marvel Spider-Man 2 release date of October 20, 2023. However, users in multiple Middle East countries, including Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Kuwait, have reported being unable to pre-order the PS5 sequel. Spider-Man 2's H rating has reportedly been removed from local PlayStation website listings for the game, some of which are currently displaying its release date as October 20, while also stating release date to be determined. It's been claimed that the game's release could be delayed while content is censored to adhere to local customs and values. BGC has contacted Sony to see if it can clarify the game's release status in the Middle East. Sony's animation movie Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was blocked from release in the UAE last month for failing to meet local censorship laws, partly because of a Protect Trans Lives poster which briefly appears in the background of one frame, according to the Hollywood Reporter. It's just such a snapshot of that movie. By the way, so fellow PS5 exclusive Final Fantasy XVI was also recently banned in Saudi Arabia after publisher Square Enix reportedly refused to modify the game to meet censorship requirements. So this clearly is because there's LGBTQ content, things that is anathema in the Middle East and all that. And the thing is that I wonder if Miles Morales was banned because there's an prominent LGBTQ side quest in that game.
Wait, which one?
It's a side quest where you help like a girl and his girlfriend from
which game?
Miles Morales.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
I think I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, but it's just so offhandedly mentioned, like it's not made a big deal. So, and the thing was they mentioned that Final Fantasy 16 was banned in Saudi Arabia. I can imagine Square Enix didn't want to cut Dion and his guy's relationship.
Yeah, which is funny because it's barely there, honestly.
Yeah, but it's like public. I wonder if it's like, if it's too obvious, that's like a bannable offense there in the Middle East. But that's the thing, like the things that are like the social movements of other places, especially in the United States, like those things are completely prohibited. And like you get killed if you're found out you're an homosexual in the Middle East. Like, and think about it, like they banned Across the Spider-Verse just because there was like a quick shot during the Gwen Stacy prologue where you see the Protect Trans Kids flag. So, and that was never mentioned again. It was just kind of like in the background. So they will have that content. So I wonder. So it makes me wonder: is Sony gonna do the banning to release this game, or are they gonna do the Square Enix thing that they were like, yeah, screw you, Saudi Arabia, like we're not editing the game. So,
clearly Square Enix barely cares about the American audience. I can't imagine they care much about the Middle Eastern audience.
Yeah, even though that game sold out. And the thing is that they still sold a lot even with a banned country. So, but hey, it's like if more countries can stand to be like, hey, like this is what the game is, So it's like like if the country doesn't let us do like what our original artistic intent is, well, it's so funny. By the way, we were talking about Oppenheimer like before we started recording.
Mhm.
There's a version of the Middle East of that movie that completely censors the Florence Pugh thing, and they've CGI.
Oh,
They
yeah.
actually CGI'd her on like
They're like a
full
dress
Yeah,
in India.
yeah. It was India, so it's so funny that happens. And that one is like, well, I mean, it was technically gratuitous, so I don't mind that they did it. But it's so funny how like some countries will kowtow to try to release things in a certain country, and others won't. So let's see where Sony lands with that. At least it tells us that there's gonna be some social stuff that may be deemed inappropriate.
Yeah.
There, and in my country, it would be highly mocked on. Let's just say, we are not like. It's like people like that exist here, but it's like they're highly mocked over here. We're a very Catholic. We're a very Catholic Christian nation over here. So, story number 3, Paul. This is more like a quick confirmation of something that is of interest to you. Also by BGC, by story by Jordan Midler. New Red Dead Redemption logo appears on Rockstar website. A new logo for Red Dead Redemption has appeared on Rockstar's website amidst claims that the game could be set for a remaster. Posted to Twitter by Test Funds too. They also point out that in an update to the Rockstar website made today, a game known as Red Dead Redemption Rockstar Presents Ver has been added to the internal games list. It's possible that this is simply an updated logo that will be rolled out to digital versions of the game, bringing it in line with other Rockstar titles that also feature Rockstar Games Presents branding. However, last month, Rockstar's 13-year-old game was classified by South Korea's Game Rating and Administration Committee, which has a history of revealing upcoming titles prior to their official announcement. So, that's all we need about that story. We got that rating leak from South Korea. Now they changed the logo. This is happening. This is totally happening. Even though it's like, we basically have it because they really did some work for the Xbox version.
Yeah.
I'm glad this is for the people that don't have an Xbox, because this is clearly going to be for like on PlayStation that are not able to play that first game unless they have their PS3 hooked up. So
I certainly hope that this is like the new chance for people to get into this game because of how freaking good it was. I mean, there was a reason why this was considered my all-time favorite game
for a while.
For a while, right next to Kingdom Hearts 2, depending on the day, flip-flopping.
Which, by the way, is Kingdom Hearts 2 still that for you, or?
It's up there. I don't really know what my favorite game is anymore, but Kingdom Hearts 2 is probably it. As like just it's the placeholder unless something else shows up, but I don't think anything's ever really dethroned it anymore.
Yeah. So I just find it interesting, like a specific time and place how that game hit you, right? So.
Very much so, because I played that right after Katrina.
And
that was like
yes.
when I got back from being in exile and my parents had money. We got like a bunch of games from like insurance reasons. They used that money to buy Cody and I some Christmas presents, so we had like GameCube games. One of them we went to Best Buy and picked up Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, and it was like for that whole like 2006 era where I lost several family members for an unrelated reason, and a lot of other stuff happened. That was like the game that held me down, and just not only was it good, but it's like this is the comfort food now.
No, and I can imagine, especially how wholesome that game is. Like even right now, me replaying it, it's like that. It's like it shows that like Kingdom Hearts, like yes, it's corny, but who cares? It's like it's also like the scene where Sora says goodbye to the kids he never met, and he feels something because a part of him was the character that disappeared, that still had those emotions for him. It was like that part is so touching. There's so much of that game that's so touching that I see why people like think so strong about Kingdom Hearts 2. But I would even go as far as say like the combat of that game's really awesome too. Like with the like as an action RPG is like one of the best. Like people don't realize like how deep with the limit breaks and all that. So I get it.
It's because you had to acknowledge and like activate individual skills, but if you could get the right combination of those and really mess around with it, you could.
Yeah, the
really
game is beyond just pressing
game.
X. And the thing is that that game is just beyond just pressing X. It seems
So
like
much.
that, but it's like there's more depth to that than you realize, and it's actually really cool when it's executed. But also with Red Dead, it's like Red Dead 1 is still my favorite Rockstar game. I go back and forth with Red Dead 1 and 2 because 2's story is so much better. Story.
Yes. Yeah.
2's problem is pacing and
a lot
gameplay.
of other things.
It's so funny because Sebastian, our buddy Sebastian, he tweeted like the rumors of the story. He tweeted this
I
specifically.
saw that.
Yeah, he said, one of my favorite games of all time. Give me the first game story with Red Dead 2 gameplay and open world, and you got a Game of the Year contender. And I'm like, I actually responded. I actually told him, I would say give me the gameplay of 1 as is, and then the animation and visual quality of production of 2 without any of the slow tedium of 2, and we got a winner there. I would love for Red Dead 1 to look like Red Dead 2, but I don't want Red Dead 1 to be like, I'm gonna walk like the Marlboro Man, I'm gonna like hold a button to slowly open the cabin, slowly grab the thing, slowly crouch, slowly. So it's like, in real life, you are not that slow to open things up. It's like there's something about like those things from Red Dead 2 that is like, unless you're like fully immersed in like its idiosyncrasies of being so slow, it's like, I'm not like slowly like, let me grab this can. Oh, here's my Nutella. Now I'm gonna put this thing back. Now I'm gonna open it. Like, that's not how real life is. So it's like, it's so funny that they were trying to be like, let's see how realistic we can make this. So it's like, why I enjoy Red Dead 1 more is because they're snappier. It's so much snappier, and there's also more freedom within the missions. Like, Red Dead 2, if you're not specifically following what they want you to do, it's an insta-fail. So yeah, it's like, even if it's just a remaster, as long as it's like a really sharp remaster, like, if the remaster work is just translating what Microsoft did, like, internally to Red Dead's backwards compatible game, and that's available for PlayStation owners, that would be enough. Like, that would be more than enough. Because then, like, the proper console bases that need this game to be, like, preserved, like, would have them now. So, or even if it can look even sharper, I will take it. So, but yes, like the return of Red Dead 1, that is like long overdue, and if appropriately priced, so insert Spider-Man. What's the name of that meme? Like, what was that meme? Like, you know, the one that
it's like the pensive Spider-Man. I think is what you call it.
Yeah, the pensive Spider-Man. So, or like the scheming Spider-Man. Like, it's such a funny. I love that image so much. So insert that image about like what I would do with this one, because imagine if this also came the same year that we also get the Metal Gear games later in October. Because I'm for sure. Yeah, because I for sure want that. So those Metal Gear games. So final story, Paul. A trip back to your favorites. CDPR. CD Projekt Red plans to lay off around 100 staff, roughly 9% of its team. In an organizational update message posted on the studio's official website, CD Projekt CEO Adam Kaczynski states that the company wants to have teams that are more agile and more effective, and that after analyzing the teams in the company, the decision has been made that some are no longer needed. We've carefully assessed all teams in the company in terms of their expected contribution to the delivery of our strategy, Kaczynski writes. There's no easy way to say this, but today we are overstaffed. We have talented people on board who are finishing their tasks, and based on current and expected project needs, we already know we don't have other opportunities for them in the next year. The outcome in the studio parting ways with around 100 people, which is roughly 9% of the entire team. This will not be immediate, as some employees will be let go as late as Q1 2024, but in the spirit of transparency, we've chosen to share the information now. We want team members to have ample time to process and adjust to the change, and we've also made sure to offer everyone a comprehensive severance package. In May, CD Projekt announced that it had laid off 29 employees after rescoping its Witcher spin-off game, Project Sirius, which, by the way, that's a game we talked about when Duncan was with us. These layoffs mostly impacted developers at the Molasses Flood, the American studio behind Flaming the Flood, which CD Projekt acquired in 2021. Also in May, the company announced that its decision to wind down support for Gwent in 2023 would lead to around 30 Gwent team members also being laid off. It's not been made clear if the roughly 100 employees set to be let go include the Gwent staff. CD Projekt Red is currently working on a number of projects, including titles codenamed Polaris, which is a new game in the Witcher franchise, Orion, a new Cyberpunk game, and Hadar, an entirely new IP. They're working on all that down there, and they're laying people off. So, I'll say this.
Does not make sense.
Yeah, it's weird, doesn't make sense, but I do know that pandemic hiring really overbloated a lot of like right now, like there's been a big calm down happening from like how many people got hired to work at so many of these conglomerates at like the Microsofts and the Googles and many developers, because it was like, we need people working and you can work from home, so let's just hire. And now like everything has come down, and now we're like in this inflated economy that is like making everything so darn expensive everywhere in the world. Maybe that's what they're seeing, but it's still like them. He bluntly says, there's no easy way to say this, but today we are overstaffed. It's shitty, but I mean, it's like, at least it's being honest. It still sucks hearing people are gonna lose their jobs, especially when you think they're working on all these games. Are you that overstaffed that, like,
yeah,
not everyone can like work on? Though I will say that I do appreciate saying that they're announcing this now, so that it doesn't like blindside, because so many layoffs sometimes happen as blindsides to many people around quarterly earnings. So
yeah.
at the very least, like, they're giving, so it's July, so August, September, and October, November, so they're giving them a 6-month head start. So I do wonder if like they're already starting talking with specific people, be like, hey, yeah, you're not continuing, so we're telling you now. I would hope
the severance package is realistic. Because some of them are like, yo, we give them a perfect severance package, and it's like, buddy, you paid like one paycheck. I have 15 days to get my life together.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really kind of crappy, especially because of how many projects that they have. Like, how are you going to? Usually, this is where you have like a big influx of new hires because of all of the projects that you're working on. How are you going to not be able to pay for any of that?
Yeah, you nail it. Exactly. Specifically for that, because it seems interesting that this is happening in the ramp up of new projects.
Right.
So, and
that's just not what happens normally.
Yeah. And you remember when they made the big deal of all the projects that they were announcing, and that they were opening a CDPR like studio over in America, because they wanted to like hire the talent pool from the from American studios to be able to not have to relocate all the way to Poland, where CD Projekt Red's main office is. So they made all that expansion, and now they're laying people off. It makes me wonder if their expansion that we heard a couple months ago when they were talking about the new Witcher games that were coming, the new Cyberpunk game, the Hadar, that felt like over promising to like investors maybe, and then now they're like hitting with the financial realities of things, and all of these layoffs happening before Cyberpunk, or at least announcing this before Cyberpunk's Phantom Liberty DLC. It's CD Projekt Red is in a really, really interesting position, because it's like they're no longer the darling studio. It's like Cyberpunk forever like sullied them being like the king that was promised. These are like the developers were championing, because everything they did with Witcher 3 was like something worth championing for. They were working on the generational game that was Cyberpunk, and then that whole launch mess completely like pissed away all their goodwill, but they eventually did right on fixing the game. The next gen version of that game's pretty good. Cyberpunk Edge Runner's anime completely like kickstarting interest in Cyberpunk again, like being like the most perfect synergy we've ever seen from TV show to game, and how like interest in one can like help interest in the other. But it still feels like a studio that is like maybe not being managed super well, because it's like this seems so weird. It's like we're announcing all this projects, opening new studios and all that, and now we're gotta have to cut people back. So it's like it just feels weird. And then we heard about like the over budget that was happening with that other project. We heard about the one at the Molasses studio that's also happened there. When also Duncan was with us, we talked about that whole thing, and he was giving us all the explanation. Remember that? So yeah, so it's like CDPR is like, yeah, they righted the ship, but it still feels like a really messy studio now. That is like it's still so light years away from being the darling they used to be. So, and this just adds to that. So my thoughts are with those 100 people are gonna get laid off. At the very least, I mean, you got time to know that will be winding down. It's still sad. It always sucks hearing about layoffs, especially nowadays, especially how many massive layoffs have been happening almost everywhere. So yeah, so sometimes it works to work for your family or by yourself and not relying to others. So, and that concludes this week's news, Paul. Read us the massive list of 3 for the week of July 30 to August 5th. August is finally here.
And we have F1 Manager 2023. I want to pause here and wonder, like, how popular must this game be to like continue to get sequels to it like this each year?
Popular,
Like
dude.
that is, it clearly must be really good, actually.
Yeah, and not only that, the F1 brand, so freaking huge in like Europe and all of that.
I mean, good for them because Formula One is clearly far superior to anything NASCAR has ever or will ever.
Yeah, oh yeah, NASCAR. Yeah,
record.
Yeah, NASCAR is like completely in the dust compared to like F1. My sister.
Same. Those arcade games of the NASCAR games were really fun.
Yeah, but that was all the way back there when arcades mattered.
Yeah. But what were you saying?
Those were back then in arcades when arcades mattered.
No, before that. You were saying something about, I think, your sister?
Yeah, my sister goes to see F1 races because she lives in Europe. So.
That's sick.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. She posts stories on her Instagram, so she's really big on F1 because she's like so in. It's like that's part of the side guys culture. The Sundays for F1. You watch the early races, or you actually are able to go to like the actual races. If you have the right connections.
It's kind of awesome, honestly. Well, anyway, F1 Manager 2023, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC on July 31st. Venba on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on July 31st. And lastly, Baldur's Gate 3 on PC August 3rd.
PS5 version coming September 6th. So, really, really jealous of the PC community that are able to get this a month before Starfield. They get to like get their RPG fix of that specific one, and us we have to like decide between Starfield and Baldur's Gate with our own consoles. So, and one of those because it's on Game Pass, it's easy like lean on. So, it's August already, Paul. So, can't believe the fall is already here. So,
not at all. I'm not prepared. However, I am stupidly excited for fall here.
Yeah,
it's gonna be my first time actually getting to see it. I'm gonna see those leaves changing. I'm gonna see all of like the shift, the firewood burning on those cold nights. It's gonna actually drop in the temperature.
You're gonna be able to wear jackets.
Would be wearing jackets every day. It's gonna be sick, man.
Oh man, I'm so I look forward to the day I get to visit around that time of year. Like, I really look forward to that. So. And with that, Paul, that concludes this week's episode. So, I wonder what the length of this one was. Probably maybe the same as the last one.
Ignore those noises.
I didn't hear anything. So
good. My dog got really excited to see a rabbit outside and knocked something over.
At least it's not the cats. If cats saw rabbits, I tell you, they would go Mortal Kombat on them.
They're already like, they'll look through the window and just like,
I tell you, because I remember going for Thanksgiving for one of my friends when I was at university there in Oklahoma, and I went to their parents' house and they have a cat in the wild outdoors. We went to the porch, and then I'm like, oh, what is this? Is that a hand? A rabbit's hand? And then I just see like the spinal cord just there, like it was just cleaned up. And then my body was like, man, our cat is like this tiny little black thing just committed like full Mortal Kombat fatality in rabbits.
They go crazy, I tell you, man. You'll find random stuff. Like we found at my boss's house, he has 2 outside cats. I found like the front half of a frog.
Oh.
That was all that was left.
Cats cats are vicious animals.
Anyway, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter. I just posted a bunch of stuff of me breaking Red Dead Redemption 2.
Or just the game breaking on itself on a cutscene.
Or just the game breaking by itself, like despawning the horse in the background when he's like, it's been real challenging lately, hasn't it? And then the horse just vanishes.
I tell you, now I believe it more than ever. Your PS5 has something weird in it. It breaks the game like that.
It's so fun, though, because it's just enough to give me like, that's hilarious. I love this.
Oh yeah, it's because it's like until Jedi Fallen Order, like when I send you those clips, no game is broken for me. Like it happens to you so often. It's
really funny. It makes me wonder what was in the water when they made my PS5, but I don't know if I would ever like turn it back. Like, what would I sell it for? Just PS5, where things kind of break here and there, but it's in a really funny way.
I know, but it's like I'm glad because it's like your games break in ways that either I'm not paying attention for or you just don't register for me until I see it in your clips. So you can find me at _Drosegovia on Twitter, as long as or X. Yeah, X.
That's right. We can't call it Twitter anymore.
I'll
Oh
still call
boy.
it Twitter. Screw you,
Yeah.
Musk. You can also find me at both Instagram and Threads at Alejandro Segovia 93. And then you can find my written content at both seasongaming.com when I do reviews, and also thecriticalcorner.com, which you can read some of my old stuff there. So, well, it's been fun. So, everyone else, thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode. I'm hoping that you enjoyed the rest of what's left of July, because it's insane how fast time is going right now. Play some games, like we're gonna, or like finish your backlog, because the fall is soon to happen and it's not gonna be a quiet one. And 2023 is definitely gonna go down as one of those greatest of all time years for gaming. Also, stay healthy. Play like touch some grass, get the sun, and
Press X.
to play.
Good night, everybody.
Hasta luego.